Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Carl Klaus, Vice President for Development and Alumni Relations. Thank you for being here today to help us celebrate the opening of Swarthmore College's newest building. The Matchbox is the ideal building to dedicate during the year in which the college celebrates a landmark anniversary, our sesquicentennial. The very name Matchbox prompts us to reflect on the past and on the many lasting relationships that were planted, took root, and bloomed this campus, invoking fond memories for many of our alumni. But this building also prompts us to look into the future. In fact, it will enable us to build a stronger future for sports teams, for a theater program, but most importantly, for the community as a whole. We value diversity here at Swarthmore, as you may know. Among many other things, the Matchbox contributes a heavy dose of architectural diversity. Those who see it for the first time recognize right away that it's unlike any other building on campus. Very different, though equally beautiful. And it all happened quickly. It seems it wasn't long ago that we had in front of us, all we had in front of us was an architectural drawing, a very different looking one at that. But the community came together to make it happen. Visionaries, creative thinkers, builders, hard workers, and of course the many people who contributed gifts, large and small, so that this vision could become a reality before our eyes today. I want to thank you, and with that, I will begin the program with a few speakers who want to share some remarks and thoughts, and then move on to the really exciting Matchbox will be open. So it's my pleasure now to turn the podium over to Interim President Connie Leatherwood.
I'm delighted to be here. I was just sitting over there with a view out of the window to the miserable people under umbrellas in the stands. It's great to be able to see them, and it's also wonderful to be indoors. So I want to begin by thanking Carl and for all the efforts that you've made to make this happen. It really was a team effort, and the team helped, but it was a Herculean effort, as I'm sure many of us realize. I also want to thank, first of all, the Director of Athletics, Adam Kurtz, and Dean of Students, Liz Braun, whose collaborative efforts, beginning even before the planning process some years ago, went a long way toward envisioning the many programs and activities this space will accommodate across a wide and very diverse range of users. Vision is one thing, it's great to have, but realization is quite another, and so I want to also make a number of thank yous to really key people in the execution of this project. First of all, the project manager, Mike Boyd. Okay, Mike Boyd, the person at the college who was the primary shepherd, you should say the main driver of the work. Also, our many partners and staff at Big Saw, the architectural firm that designed this wonderful building, especially the architects Jules Dingo and Aaron Yetzi. Are either of them? Yes. I think throughout we're so delighted with the various functions that are being accommodated here, but the imagination and the beauty of the building continually rolls over everyone. Also to thank our Never Say Die construction company, CBM, and their staff, in particular John Morrison, Carrie Chetlin, Dominic Chiaravalati, and Chris Spicella. Thank you for your talent and your diligence. A hearty thank you to alumnus David McElhinney. Saw you come in. David is class of 1975 and also the parent of a current student, and he generously donated and you will see others throughout the building that explain the history of the building and that also give other special thanks. I want to make sure that you know about one that will be on permanent display in the foyer of the building, which honors and recognizes Stu Hain, Vice President for Facilities and Capital Projects. But no one more so than Stu. It was his idea to build the Matchbox on the footprint of the former squash courts and to use materials from the old building as creatively as possible in this new space and also elsewhere around campus. Some of the outcomes of Stu's vision are detailed on the plaque and in your programs. They include repurposing nearly 28 tons of material from the old building. Is from the building that housed the squash courts. At one point, Stu told people from the construction company about a pile of stone, some of it more than 100 years old, just wasting away under weeds and bushes in the Crum Woods. And their eyes lit up, and they saw it. And the stonemasons had the rare opportunity to show off their skills in experimental and organic wall design. So stone that had been discarded as useless ends up comprising about a third of the building. So thank you, Stu, for keeping before us from the beginning of this project and throughout one of our most important commitments at the college. And finally, I want to introduce a Matchbox couple from the 1980s, without whom the Matchbox simply would not have been possible. Salem Shuffman and Barbara Flood. In fact, it was and has been their passion. They supported it as lead donors and as enthusiastic recruiters of other donors to fulfill their matching gift. Through their support and dedication, the college was able to complete the Matchbox almost entirely through donations. They supported it also with their ideas and advice and have actively followed the building's construction. They take justifiable pride in a building that supports some of the most important programs and initiatives of the college. And it was Salem and Barbara who chose the perfect name, Matchbox, reflecting not only the design of the building, but more importantly, the lifelong relationships, like their own, that are so often formed at Swarthmore. Generations of students will benefit from this creatively designed, multi-use space. So Salem and Barbara, thank you for the commitment and dedication that have made this building a reality. And I'm going to invite you to say a couple of words now.
Thank you. Many of you are aware of our connection to Swarthmore. But for those of you who don't know the story, Barbara and I came to Swarthmore 2 years apart. We were brought together by Jean Lang, who gave us scholarships to Swarthmore. We were both Lang scholars. So Jean had a hand in this facility too. Having met at Swarthmore, we're a Matchbox couple like so many others. And like many alumni, our shared experience at Swarthmore has had a huge impact on our lives. And most importantly, the conviction regarding making a positive difference in the world around us. And now our daughter, Michaela, who is the class of 16, will have that experience as well. When we thought of a name for this facility, somehow the Matchbox just seemed appropriate. It's a way to acknowledge our connection and what we owe to Swarthmore. So this is a facility which started with a great idea, captivated the imagination of those on campus, and got momentum from the many alumni and parents along the way who gave so generously of their I think it's a wonderful example of our ability as a community to make a great idea a reality in a remarkably short period of time. And it does make you think of what else we could do if we can imagine it, engage it, and support each other and come together for a common cause. We were captivated by the idea of a building that had the opportunity to significantly impact so many parts of our community, our athletes, our theater department, and the wellness of students, faculty, and staff. Our athletes dedicate themselves not only to their academic studies, but to their performance on the field or on the court, and they deserve to have a facility that allows them to achieve their very best. Our theater department, which has grown every year, thanks to the leadership of Professor Ellen Koharski, needed more dedicated space to allow it to continue to expand and thrive. And our community will benefit from a facility and programs to enhance wellness and keep us healthy. The sustainable nature of the facility was also important to us. Reusing existing spaces and materials was a way to evidence our community's commitment to being good stewards of our resources and showcase how that might be accomplished. Finally, we felt that there was an opportunity with a facility like this to bring together different parts of the community who might not typically spend as much time together outside the classroom. The image that we kept in our minds was of actors and athletes, students, faculty, and staff in a single facility, and that captivated us. I would imagine that barriers do break down when you're sweating next to someone, or just sitting outside, relaxing after a hard workout or a grueling rehearsal. We need spaces like that in Swarthmore and the world around us. So as Jean Lang once told me, the wonderful part of giving is that you as a donor get so much more out of it than you can imagine. That's definitely the case here. To see this wonderful building and be able to watch it come into use by so many members of our community is truly gratifying to us. I want to thank Stu and Liz and Adam and Carl and so many others who put in countless hours to bring this building to fruition. And I also want to thank the many alumni and other members of our community who gave so generously when asked. It really is a testament to what our community can accomplish, and we should take great pride in what we do. Thank you.
This piece of the former squash court with a thank you message on it for your leadership role as well. So thank you. I'd next like to introduce to you Jane Easdown and James Booth, co-chairs of Swarthmore's Parents Council and parents of a senior here at Swarthmore. It was about 2 years ago when we brought the idea of the Matchbox to the Parents Council, and they were immediately engaged, enthusiastic, supportive, and full of feedback and advice on perhaps how the space might become more functional, more useful. Feedback and advice that has become part of the building that we're sitting in today. So the Parents Council quickly took this on this project as a philanthropic priority, and through their support, I can't say thank you enough. So Jane and James, would you care to share a few words with us? Thank you.
We're very honored to be asked to speak on behalf of the Parents Council, James and myself. The Parents Council is a group of very thoughtful and committed parents who've taken on a leadership role of philanthropy for the college. Their sons and daughters are freshmen and all the way up to seniors. And we're very proud to be associated with that group. At the 2 years ago, as Carl was mentioning, the challenge was thrown out by Salem and Barbara to make the Matchbox was a great contribution to this amazing space. It was just last spring that Parents Council came to the foundations in our hard hats, and we had pictures of this beautiful facility and what the space would look like, and we were just amazed at that time at what was going to happen. But to be standing here today, I think it's more beautiful than we could have imagined. Really, just amazing accomplishments. So congratulations to everybody who's been participating in this.
I want to say just a few words about what motivated us to contribute. I don't think it's hard to say those few words. We, Jen and I, on the Parents Council, and I assume others as well. One of the things that we've learned is that the bonds of obligation to this wonderful college belong to students, to faculty, to those who live their lives here, but belong vicariously also to the parents of children. And we feel that indebtedness to the college very, very intensely, as do other parents on the council. So the reciprocity of giving back a small fraction, frankly, of what we received through our dollars from the college was just a natural thought. So we were delighted and honored to give and to express our gratitude for the wondrous things that this community does for all of its students, for our work. So thank you all. Thank you all.
As you see on the program, there are 3 spaces here within the Matchbox that we'd also like to dedicate today. 2 of those spaces we have representatives from each that I'd like to ask to come up and share a few words with us. And I'd first like to ask Dan Rothenberg to join us for a few words. Dan is Swarthmore Class of '95, founding member and co-artistic director of Pig Iron Theater here in Philadelphia. Dan and Salem came to me and we began thinking about the idea of a space named in honor of Alan Harsty, recognizing his 25-year relationship at Swarthmore College and all that he has done to advance the theater program at Swarthmore. The idea quickly took off and obviously has become a reality. But I want to say thank you to Dan and to Salem for the partnership of this project. And as
Hello, I'm Dan Rothenberg, class of '95, and it's an honor to be here in this new space. Congratulations to Salem and Barbara and to everybody who made this space a reality. So I'm saying a few words about one of the people we're honoring today, Alan Harsty. I've known Alan for a long time. Oh, cell phone. It's good for theater. It's a real theater space now. Right, the honorary cell phone interruption. Now we've really inaugurated the space as a theater. So yeah, I've known Alan before, from before his beard was gray, and you can see that my beard is now gray. And I met him when I was 17 years old. I actually met him before I was a student here when I was looking at colleges. And then here at Swarthmore, he became my advisor. Later, when I graduated from the college, I worked for him as a stage manager and as a production manager when he was bringing Polish theater companies to the United States. And eventually, he became a crucial part of Pig Iron Theater Company's trajectory. And Pig Iron was founded by several Swarthmore alums, former students of Alan's. He introduced our work to the legendary theater director Joe Chitkin, and who came out of Ensemble Theater retired to make peace with us. And actually now Alan is on the faculty of Pig Iron's grad program, so when he has a space in his teaching at Swarthmore, he teaches our students. So we are inflicting him on the next generation. So I've known him in many different capacities, but I wanted to speak a little bit about Alan the professor and his vision and his effect on is for brains. And I think until this era, there was a fair amount of suspicion of the arts when it came to a hardcore liberal arts education. It was fine as an extracurricular, fine to be well-rounded, but not the place for serious study or for serious work, serious ambition. And so here comes Alan Kucharski in 1990. He's a scholar, a producer, a dramaturg, a designer, and a director. So he's at a perfect moment in the college's history to make a new proposal, that there could be a vision for that kind of thinking and that kind of ambition in the arts. He brought with him his time working with Joe Chaikin, his time studying Polish theater companies, artists who collaborated with scholars, who relied on dramaturgs, intellectuals who were not confined to the academy. And he wanted to share that vision with all of us. Theater was a pretty new major, and so he and Lee Devin and Bill Marshall, professor at the time, were at pains to show that it was serious. So they made sure we had the maximum number of credits that you could have. I remember I also studied English, and that definitely is a real discipline. So they only had 8 credits to graduate, but we had the maximum at 12. This was not going to be a softy major. At our contemporary dramaturgy seminar, I think we read 4 plays a week. We could still prove that we were sort of more brains. At the same time, he wanted us making art all the time and getting out into the real world of theater making. And he was always pushing us to intern and to apprentice with professional theater companies. And he was doing the legwork to make that happen for us, setting up introductions. And students in my time had apprenticeships in the summer with American Repertory Theater, with Shakespeare Santa Cruz, with the Worcester Group. And I know that this has continued in all of the time since I graduated, culminating in some students working with theater companies and dance companies in Poland, and even at those connections becoming a full-fledged study abroad program in Poland that Alan envisioned. 3 of us went to the San Francisco Mime Troupe as apprentices in the summer of 1994. One of them was Jeff Sugg, also class of 95. He designed the early plays of Pig Iron. He later worked for the Worcester Group, and tonight you can actually see his work on Saturday Night Live. He's a video designer now on Broadway and also for Prince. And Prince is performing on Saturday Night Live tonight, so you can see one of Alan's former students' work. And I thought this was also appropriate because Prince was in heavy rotation at the parties that Alan threw in the 90s at his house on Plum Ledge, which is just a skip and a jump from here. Parties where one of the other things we learned was how to distinguish between good vodka and bad vodka, something that Alan thought would be a good thing for us to know. Also, I went to San Francisco. It was there that I decided to become theater director, working with Dan Chumley. The third was Adam Copeland. He runs his own theater company, the Flying Carpet Theater Company in New York and Atlanta. And I spoke to Adam this week about Alan, and I thought he summed up some of the feelings of those of us who studied with him at that time beautifully. He said, from a human point of view, the college's idea is that professors are available to students as a teacher, a mentor, and a friend. And Alan was all these things to me. Alan balanced all of that. That's my recollection as well. I think that as students, we're so eager for the approval and when we are young, the approval and the love of our teachers. And Alan really wouldn't let us get away with that. He shared his enthusiasms and he shared his passions, and he genuinely wanted to know yours as a student. When Bordeaux, class of 94, also added his recollections, yes, there were no 5-minute encounters with him. On campus, there was always time for an hour or an hour and a half. Performance theory, theater history, a little bit of gossip. In my senior year, I wanted to direct a Shakespeare play for my final project. And Alan said, you know what? If you direct a Shakespeare play, everybody would love you and you'd be a hero. Why don't you do something different? So I changed my plans and I did something more difficult and less popular. And I think I've been trying to do that ever since. And I think that's one of the things which is an example of my connection to Alan, which is that he is drawn to projects full of ambition. He's always been willing to do things which aren't easy. He's pioneered a host of programs and initiatives here at Swarthmore. The Swarthmore Project in Theater, which started with my theater company sort of squatting with LPAC in 1995. Alan developed that into a full-fledged program that has hosted all kinds of professional artists and alums. So he has an expansive vision of what his students can achieve for Swarthmore's theater program. And it's thrilling to see the program expand with this rehearsal space named in Alan's honor. And yes, I just want to commend everyone who's worked so hard to make this happen for their vision in creating this new space.
And I began talking to Cindy Lewis about this project. I thought she's a former athlete that made this interest here, and quickly realized as she began to inform me that the family list of student athletes was really lengthy. And as a result, the interest that she had her husband showed this project became that very quickly. And as a result of that, we have a lovely space on the ground floor, the Lewis Reynolds Athletic Performance Room. We're grateful for that. Cindy, would you like to say a few words?
My earliest memories of Swarthmore are coming here as a small child with my parents, who were a Matchbox couple, and going to lacrosse games, which were held where the DuPont parking lot is now. So I remember athletics at Swarthmore from an early age. My father was in the class of 35, and my mother was in the class of 38. And my father was captain of the lacrosse team. My mother was on the women's golf team, and was actually the women's golf team. And so athletics have always been important in our family. Fast forward a few years, not too many because it was a long time ago now. I came from a small high school, which somehow, back in those days, managed to field 4 women's field hockey teams. And it was a small high school. So I was not surprised when I came to Swarthmore, which, by the way, I did not choose because of its athletics, and discovered that there were 2 women's field hockey teams, which seemed to be perfectly natural. And it was only later when I talked to other people of my generation who went to different schools that I discovered that the opportunities for women athletes were by no means as ubiquitous as they were here at Swarthmore. And I had a wonderful time here. Women's athletics were just as important as the men's, and I managed to be an honors major, and my badminton matches were just as important for scheduling seminars as the men's basketball team or whoever it was. And I was actually happy to learn how to play badminton on the team, because my recollection of badminton was you went out in the backyard and you batted the dirt around a little bit. It turns out once you learn how to play, it's actually quite a demanding sport, and that has stood me in good stead in later years as I challenged people who poo-poo badminton. I said, oh, I bet I can beat you. And indeed I could. So that was fun too. But I enjoyed being able to combine my love for pursuits with my love of athletics here at Swarthmore. And I did find that athletics made me more focused. It helped me be organized, and I was able to do a whole lot more than I might have been able to do if I had not had the ability to play on the teams. Now we fast forward a little bit more to our daughter, and she actually had the I'm not sure what the word is. The misconception that she would enjoy going to school at Williams more than Swarthmore. And she actually went there for a year and decided that she would like to find a school where she could both play field hockey, which is what she liked to do, but also talk to her field hockey team members and indeed other people about things other than field hockey. And she decided to look into Swarthmore, and thank goodness decided after lengthy conversations with Jim Bach to come here. And her field hockey team members, fellow members, were welcoming. I think she had no problem fitting in as a transfer student right away. They immediately were friendly and gave her something to, to combine with her love of academics. And indeed, that fall she also met Stephen. And Stephen is a basketball player and was on the basketball team here at Swarthmore. And so we have now come full circle where my parents started as a Matchbox couple, and we now have my daughter and Stephen, who got married here last June in the amphitheater with their reception at Sharpless. And Sarah had her 4 fellow team members of the field hockey team as part of her bridal party, and Stephen had 4 fellow members of the basketball team as part of his bridal party. And so I think that the role of athletics in forming relationships and just helping you deal with different demands on your time, I think is very important. I also like the fact that the Matchbox building here is combining theater with athletics, because I think it's important that athletes also combine their interests with other types of interests. And finally, I would like to say that it's enjoyable to me to come to Matchbox here, because my senior year was actually the year that the squash courts opened. And I learned how to play squash on the squash courts here, and which was great fun and stood me in good stead when I went to graduate school, because it gave me something to do to blow off steam. And I was always sad to see the building here unused, and so it's wonderful to have it repurposed in this fashion. It's just fantastic. And finally, I would like to say that I do still play tennis, so your athletics can last all through your life.
Thank you, Cindy, for your generosity. I'd now like to turn our attention to your left, to the ribbon for our ribbon cutting, and I'll ask the sales and Barbara and their family to join Chair Gil Kemp behind the ribbon for our ribbon cutting. Following the ribbon cutting, we will unveil the recognition plaques for the Carson Studio and the Lewis Reynolds.